Welcome to our mindful morning. And I firstly would like to thank so many warm wishes for me, for my recent hospitalization, and that I'm recovering very well. And I'm very happy to be here this morning to help to host our morning. And so I'm also very happy to welcome Brother Yonten. He and I have a very good friendship over the last year or two when he was recording me reading for the Sangha story time. And also we always enjoy a good laugh together. And we agree that in times of stress and suffering and pain and despair, being able to have a good laugh is a really good thing. So the morning will follow the normal pattern with a slight variation. And please don't worry about being recorded. We are going to record for ourselves the whole of the morning, and then we will edit what we would like to post on our website or anywhere else. So don't worry, the gallery view or anything else that we consider to be a bit sensitive won't be published. And we will simply edit out what might be useful for the theme of the talk and the theme of the morning. And I guess if anybody is on a live question thing, but we would like to publish it, we would certainly ask permission. So don't worry about everything being recorded. We will edit. So we'll follow the usual pattern. We will have a guided meditation and followed by a talk, which Brother himself will do, including the bell, which is wonderful because all I've got to do is to sit here and listen to the bell then and enjoy the meditation and the talk. Then we will have a short break during which, if anybody has any questions, they can be put into the chat. And we'll monitor those questions and see if we can either group them or offer Brother, a group of two of them. Anyway, we'll monitor those, Anna, myself, and Brother. And then after a short break, we'll come back for a live question and answer session with Brother Yonten. And then we will have opportunity for Dharma sharing and come back together for the final 5 minutes, goodbye, song, that kind of thing, and a chaotic wave and talk to each other. So it gives me great happiness to welcome Brother for a talk, because he was a little bit reluctant to do this at first, but he has a unique practice for us, or a unique position from which to practice, which I know will be very valuable and helpful for many. Either in his situation or similar situations. And so welcome, Brother. Thank you for agreeing to do this talk, and you've no need to be nervous. You're in the warm and loving hands of our Sangha family. So I'm bowing out now.
Thank you, dear Terry, dear supporting community, dear friends. So as you all know now, my name is Brother Yonten. Let me just do a little bit of housework quickly, just so I'm in a position to offer my best. There we go. So, welcome, dear Thai, beloved community, dear friends. Thank you for coming together today so that we may breathe and practice as one body, and also give me the opportunity to offer this wee Dharma talk and meditation. As mentioned, this is being recorded, and I should be trialing a new format so that we may use sections of the talk later on. Therefore, I will be mentioning structured questions as we go through the talk itself. These are just to assist in the editing process, but also to assist in my practicing as well. So to begin with, we shall enjoy a sound of the bell, and we shall then enjoy a guided meditation together. And the meditation will begin following my usual format of inviting 3 sounds of the large bell, and we'll conclude with inviting 2 sounds of the large bell. There will be stanzas offered throughout the guided meditation, and as with Plum Village format, these are just guiding words that can be allowed to flow down like Dharma rain, as Thai offers to us. There's no need to intellectualize them or think about them, but they may touch upon feelings within yourself or come up at a later date that you may like to contemplate and explore. So I invite you now to adjust your position so that you're in a place of comfort, a place of ease, so that you may retain some attentiveness to your breathing, but be in a body position that you're able to sit and or lie and enjoy the meditation, which will last for around 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. So as we slowly close our doors, our sense doors to sense objects, we may like to close our eyes if we're comfortable to do so. Just drawing our attention further inward to rest on the rhythm of our breathing, observing the rise and fall of our chest and abdomen. And just coming further and further back inward. If at any time you need to adjust your position, then please do so. And if the situation allows, if we could do this in mindfulness, that would be wonderful. Aware of my body, I breathe in. Smiling to my body, I breathe out. Aware of body, smiling. Aware of discomfort in my body, I breathe in. Smiling to the discomfort in my body, I breathe out. Aware of discomfort, smiling. Aware of numbness in a part of my body, I breathe in, smiling to the numbness in that part of my body, I breathe out. Aware numbness, smiling. Aware of feeling pins and needles in a part of my body, I breathe in, smiling to the feeling of pins and needles in my body, I breathe out. Aware of pins and needles, smiling. Aware of a building painful part of my body, I breathe in, smiling to this build-up of pain in my body, I breathe out. Aware of building pain, smiling. Visualizing inhaling cool air into the affected painful area. I breathe in. Exhaling hot air out of the affected area. I breathe out. Inhaling cool air. Exhaling hot air. Recognizing physical pain as a sensation, I breathe in. Smiling to physical pain as a sensation, I breathe out. Pain as sensation, smiling. Recognizing physical pain as a mental feeling, I breathe in. Acknowledging physical pain as a mental feeling, I breathe out. Pain as feeling, acknowledging pain as feeling. Recognizing that I am more than this pain, I breathe in. Smiling to be more than pain, I breathe out. I am more than this pain, smiling. Seeing that like all things, pain is impermanent, I breathe in. Smiling to the understanding that pain is impermanent, I breathe out. Pain is impermanent, smiling. Recognizing the beauty in my life, I breathe in. Smiling to the small beauties everywhere, I breathe out. Recognizing beauty, smiling. Experiencing the joy in my life, I breathe in. Smiling to the opportunities of happiness in my life everywhere, I breathe out. Experiencing joy, smiling to happiness. So, dear friends, this concludes the guided meditation part of today's practice session. So, I invite you now to come back into the room or into your body, but remaining relaxed. You may like to allow yourself to stretch if you so wish. Just adjusting our position so that we may be in a place of comfort, a place of ease, to enjoy the second part, that being the mindfulness talk this morning. The Dharma talk, sorry. Though hopefully some mindfulness is thrown in for good measure. I should have offered a small disclaimer at the beginning. I do have a four-legged Dharma companion here with me, and for his size he does snore quite loudly, even though he's only about that big. So if there is any background noise, I can possibly see that some would enjoy, and I apologise for those that don't enjoy. So let us begin. As mentioned, I'm offering this in a slightly structured manner, so I shall invite the structured questions before moving into the following part of the talk itself. So let us begin. This is background. A small insight into my path leading up to connect with Buddhism, Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, and Plum Village. I have a background in engineering, both civilian and in military life, for which I served over 9 years in the infantry and Royal Engineers. Upon leaving the army, I experienced some challenges which were later diagnosed and discovered to be PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, a result of operations in Northern Ireland and the Bosnian conflicts. The challenges I faced through PTSD brought about my introduction to Buddhism. A friend wanting to support healing gifted me a ticket to enjoy teaching by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama on mind training, or Lojong, in the UK in the late 90s. The experience of the Dalai Lama's teaching helped me tremendously in learning the possibility of healing using the mind. However, my interest took a back burner when I moved to Glastonbury, UK, where I explored other spiritual paths. I became a Reiki master teacher, also connected with my Pictish roots through studying pagan healing and craft, and enjoying practicing as a pagan priest for some years. But there was still something missing for me spiritually. My life and ability to practice changed though when I broke my back in January 2008, fracturing my L1 and L2 vertebrae and prolapsing 3 discs. During my recovery, I became depressed and struggled spiritually. And after a deep and challenging and upsetting conversation initiated by my then wife, we examined how the disability I shared a body with had taken away our marital relationship and had slowly debilitated my physical abilities and mental health. I could not be touched, even to hug, and she felt her role was more of a carer than a wife. She asked me what direction I would have taken in my life if we have not met. I replied that I would have liked to have ordained as a Buddhist monk, which I had made some moves towards previously before we met. She replied by asking me, "Well, why don't you?" She offered to divorce me and remain as my carer and support my spiritual path. This act an expression of deep compassion from her rocked me to my core, but brought such gratitude through my tears, and as I see it now, an offering of accessibility. As a result of researching the possibility of ordaining, I found holding on to this aspiration as a disabled person held its own challenges, possibly food for another talk. Despite this, I undertook a 3-year home study course offered jointly by Kaju Samyeling Monastery in Scotland and Dharmacharya Ken Holmes, which reopened me up to Buddhist teachings. This led me to taking my first trip up to Samyeling in 2010, but more on that later. How this affects me daily. So coming back to the catalyst of the disability that I share a body with. After approximately 3 months into my recovery, the spine healed and I went back to work in heavy industry at that time. However, I was experiencing difficulties with manual dexterity, pain, seizures and standing. And after 18 months, I was finally diagnosed as having degenerative central pain syndrome, CPS for short. This was due to the trauma that accident caused my central nervous system, to which as of yet there is no cure and very minimal treatment available. And consequently, due to dealing with chronic pain on a daily level and seizures, which may have impacted on some mental difficulties too, I had to leave work as my body had its own agenda. How the practice supports me. After a few years, through the support of the Dharma, friends, family, I came to a good understanding of how I can respond to the disability and pain. This I find is better accomplished by focusing on simple practices when enduring a spike in symptoms. For example, coming back to the breath, thereby reducing the focus away from the pain. I find this supports me both physically and mentally. This practice from Thay's teachings made accessible by having the choice to study online via teachings, meditations, YouTube, books and a couple of apps. The practice of impermanence is present in all dharmas, even pain. So practicing the understanding that the pain will only last for a day, an hour, a moment, dependent on severity, has been a great support. I also find the teaching on the 5 remembrances enriching and a wonderful Dharma practice. There's also the 3 doors of liberation: emptiness, signlessness and aimlessness, that I can enjoy at times to help with pain spikes or bouts of seizures, etc. But all this is done by not creating a battlefield in myself or in any part of my life. As Tay offers also, this can create more and more problems. So, this finally brings me to the title of this talk, Accessibility and Inclusiveness of the Buddhist Path from a disabled, this one person's point of view. Though upon reflection, when I put this title out into the ether, I initially experienced feelings of anxiety about the enormity of the subject and my ability to cover it in its entirety, giving it all the attention that it deserves. Over the next few days, I began to reflect on these themes and see the complexity within them that could be spoken about, especially if there was, as there are many communities, practitioners, prospective practitioners that could and should receive inclusiveness and could prosper in the Dharma if accessibility is increased for them. I say subjects, but it's apparent to me that accessibility and inclusiveness do not mean the same thing, but they are ideally ensuring that all 84,000 Dharma doors spoken of in classic Buddhism are unlocked for all beings. And on a personal note, if we could install a few more mobility ramps to these doors, that would be wonderful. When I invited my anxiety concerning this subject forward to view it clearly, I recognised that some seeds of its propagation residing in my stored consciousness, alaya vijnana in Sanskrit, seeds of neurodiversity, mental health. I was tested first in the 70s for ASD, which is autistic spectrum disorder, and also members of my family, a son, daughter, grandson, and ex-wife are also on the ASD spectrum. So I recognise my reflection in them, coupled with PTSD from military experiences and the trauma of the accident, all of which reinforced my reluctance to speak publicly. Even though in the military I was a very proficient instructor, but I feel that was a result of the disciplined framework that is laid out for you for communicating a teaching or an instruction session. Recognising these seeds brought me to a point of my inner Te to come forward and offer support in the practice through his teachings. Te often reiterated about keeping the practice simple. I may say accessible. Unfortunately, in fact, though, I've witnessed this perceived simplicity being spoken of in a derogatory way online. But for me, the beauty is there in the simple way these practices are communicated. To coin a phrase, if only we have the eyes to see, they hold so much depth of insight and understanding. The simplicity that Te offers the teachings and reflections brought me to the understanding that I should bring this simplicity to the talk and subjects. I need to start with recognizing and offering myself inclusiveness and engaging with personal accessibility too. Mahatma Gandhi is often quoted as saying, "Be the change you want to see in the world." But this is a misquote. I find the origin of this paraphrasing holds more meaning for me. He's quoted as saying, we but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body and mind. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would change also. As a person changes their own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards them. This is the divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing is the source of our happiness. We need not wait to see what others do. I think we'll enjoy a sound of the bell. When I looked for the word inclusiveness in Buddhist texts and books, I found it a challenge to find the word overtly offered. But I came across it in Te's commentary within teachings of the 6 parameters. The third of the 6 parameters is generally described or known as patience or forbearance in the Kagyu teachings and other teachings in other traditions. However, Te translates it as and describes it as inclusiveness, Kshanti, in his book Heart of the Buddha's Teachings, as the capacity to receive, bear, and transform pain inflicted upon you by your enemies and also by those who love you. This I have added to by including illness and disability. This path of offering inclusiveness begins by extending and experiencing inclusiveness to or for oneself. In the same vein, Te conveyed, to offer peace, you need to be peace. And I paraphrase by saying, to offer inclusiveness, you need to know inclusiveness. The same is true for accessibility, all of which to me are a work in progress, I find. I feel this can be explained moment by moment as internal inclusivity challenges arise and gently pass. As with many of the Buddha's teachings, the parameters are interwoven into R, with the other 5 offered from the Buddha's instruction. Those being Dana paramita, that of giving, offering, generosity; Shila paramita, precept or mindfulness trainings; Kshanti paramita, the inclusiveness, patience and forbearance; Viraya paramita, diligence, energy, perseverance; Dhyana paramita, meditation, concentration; and Prajna paramita, that of wisdom, insight and understanding. This interbeing, interwovenness, I find especially connects to Dana paramita, Prajna paramita and Viraya paramita. But I am not a Dharma teacher, so I will not expand on them, but invite you to explore them for yourselves. These teachings hold such beauty and are a path in themselves. Experiences of inclusiveness and accessibility. So this leads me to a brief insight of my experiences of inclusiveness and accessibility within the Buddhist community. Initially, this came about by the opportunity to enjoy the home study course offered by Samye Ling and Ken Holmes. And from my first trip to Kagyu Samye Ling in Eskdalemuir, Scotland, over the next few years and a few more trips up the road to Scotland, I had the opportunity to take refuge and the Bodhisattva vows with Chogyam Lama Yeshe Losal Rinpoche in 2014. So from 2010 up until 2019, I had the opportunity to enjoy 1 to 2 retreat visits per year. At all times I've been given wonderful support, both physically and spiritually, from the monastic and the lay Sangha there, with ramps to accommodation, the temple, lifts and stair lifts. But I did have problems accessing the teachings and transmissions when not there. This was due to distance, funds, Additionally, my chosen Kagyu lineage is mainly an oral tradition. So, with some research to further my Buddhist learning and practice, I came across the YouTube channel of the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh and Plum Village, which I found to be open and nourishing, like a fresh breeze of Dharma air and accessibility. In early 2017, I wrote to Thai and the brothers and sisters and siblings of Plum Village, explaining my physical situation plus my aspiration to ordain, including some background of my previous life. Subsequently, on November the 30th, 2017, I enjoyed self-ordination, supported by a dear Thai's books, Stepping into Freedom, and Freedom Wherever We Go. This happened at home in front of my altar with the support of my dearest friend to bear witness and to gift me my 3 robes and alms bowl. I vow to live the rest of my life as a Buddhist monastic, living my life by the Vinaya and Pratimoksha. I did not receive any direct response to the letter, but I did enjoy a mention in Brother Phaphu's New Year's Dharma talk, which was so encouraging for me and so nurturing. For a couple of years, I practiced the life of a solitary monastic. However, in early 2020, I replied to an advert requesting for volunteers by Plum Village UK, to which I was successful and became a volunteer in March 2020 into the comms team, which involves helping produce a weekly e-Dharma mail out and being part of the social media team and small part of tech advice on the side of that. The inclusivity that Plum Village UK and Plum Village has encouraged me to extend my offerings into the community via online meditations every Friday and through supporting a PTSD charity as a graphic designer, which was another interest I built as part of an art therapy. I help facilitate various Facebook groups in the Buddhist virtual world and offered support in a 90-day lay Sangha Rains retreat. I'm about to hold meditation sessions within a local homeless rehabilitation centre and with young people on the autistic spectrum. I'm also fortunate to be part of the LGBTQIA+ community, enjoying connection to the Plum Village Rainbow Sanghas and beyond. Having had the good fortune and support to enjoy a few online retreats with Plum Village and being received by the brothers, sisters and siblings with open arms and open hearts, they have offered gracious support and inclusion in all aspects of the retreats to ensure I'm able to enjoy them as physically possible, for which I am wholeheartedly grateful and humbled. I think we should invite a bell. Timing's eluding me. I apologise. I do have a slight habit of trying to extend time envelopes. So, ableism. I cannot and do not propose to speak for all disabled practitioners in Plum Village and Buddhism. as the umbrella term disabled holds so many forms and ways of being. Through research, I've discovered some friends have enjoyed wholesome and some experienced unwholesome challenges regarding disableism or ableism within Buddhist communities. The main ableism challenge I've come across is that of a seemingly closed door to practitioners with disabilities who wish to become monastics and have that aspiration. I had the opportunity to broach these issues regarding disabled monastic inclusion in a one-to-one conversation with Lama Yeshe, one of my root teachers. He expressed that it can be an issue traditionally. However, personally he felt that if the mind is sharp, then that's all that matters. Sammy Ling is very supportive with disability. However, my issue was the inability across all traditions to ordain as a monk or a nun or sibling. I've researched some other Buddhist traditions as much as possible online, but all seem to have a closed door to disabled practitioners ordaining, although there have been some instances of terminally ill practitioners being able to, which is wonderful to hear. Yet there are still instances of monastics with disabilities being disrobed. Consequently, I investigated the possibility of self-ordination as previously discussed, as I had no other options open to me. Even this I have found is controversial and a discouraged route. However, a good friend reminded me that Buddha was all compassionate and accepted all. Asking him would be the way. Therefore, I meditated and focused on what Buddha would truly want from me. How I adapt practices for me and my situation. These are just short points, really. Be diligent. Don't push yourself to where pain and harm may be caused. So if you're not able to sit, then lay down to practice. Perhaps inclusivity of disabled practitioners being given spaces within practice rooms, halls and temples, allowing them the option to lie down if needed, would be a good thing to explore. I'm usually awake from 2 a.m. onwards, unless sleep is elusive, which I experience regularly, a few times a month and days at a time. So I'm able to enjoy sitting, rolling, walking meditations and practice sessions only throughout the mornings. I find it difficult to practice in the afternoons, but will attend Dharma sharings and retreats, etc. Lying in bed, I'm able to offer my presence and support the Sangha. I spoke about this possibility with Brother Pham Han on a retreat last year before the Dharma sharing, and was unsure it was appropriate for me to do so. He opened the door of inclusiveness to me, inviting me to join in whichever way is comfortable for me to do so. As I write this, I recognise the self-ableism or self-restricting I was experiencing, but also recognise my limits. Interacting when I'm feeling well enough. Do not overstress the body, mind or heart. The positives of practicing in my situation. I consider myself to be so fortunate to have received the practice from our spiritual ancestors, which have given me clarity in the darkest of times, allowing me to clearly see there is a path which, when practiced diligently, can offer more and more wholesomeness to life. Before the accident, I did not possess the skills to communicate with loved ones, friends, almost anyone in a compassionate manner. But through Buddha, Thai, and my spiritual ancestors' teachings, I'm learning the attributes that bring about right speech, view, thinking, and understanding, etc., all of which have opened my life and heart to embrace opportunities when offered as much as possible. All practices help me with pain reduction and mental health. because of the teachings offered, I can see and enjoy the small beauties throughout the day. Most times with concentration, being able to cultivate a heart and mind of happiness. This has opened my horizons in so many ways, not least igniting the feeling of being useful again, so that I may be of service in some small way to my loved ones, friends and Sangha. This sense of lack of constructive use is quite common, I feel, a means of enabling the disabled to experience feeling abled. So it's just a couple more points. This is titled Global Points for the Sangha to Consider. According to a report from the World Health Organization in 2011 and the World Bank, 1 billion people around the world live with some form of disability, making up around 15% of the global population. So with my rudimentary math skills, there are approximately 5 million Buddhists globally, and so 15% of this means that there is approximately 75 million disabled practitioners. So how can we increase accessibility, inclusion and interbeing nature for all? What barriers cause practitioners who suffer differences to feel physically and mentally excluded within Buddhism? And what can be done to remove them? Are the practice spaces inclusive? Is the use of language inclusive? Have you ever experienced barriers to practice? So instead of working through a lengthy conclusion, after a short break we shall be opening up to the space for some questions if there are any. And maybe during the Dharma showing, if you're finding difficulty to come forward, you may like to reflect on one of those previous points. So we shall now just enjoy 2 sounds of the large bell, and I'll then pass over to Terry. Well, thank you, dear friends, for giving me this space and time in your day. And I shall now pass over to Terry.
Dear brother, such a moving talk, and I believe you're a true jewel in the UK Sangha lotus flower. Thank you so much. So we can now enjoy a short break. Let's say come back at 11:10. Please, if you can, maintain a sense of peacefulness and mindfulness with whatever you're doing. And if you would prefer to put a question in the chat, you might like to do it during the break. And then when we come back, there'll be an opportunity to ask live questions of brother. So thank you for your presence and your Sangha presence. That's all I can say. I'm left quite speechless with your beautiful talk, brother, and I'm so glad to have invited you to do it.